the conversation that can restore America. It's July 28th, 2026. Welcome to yes2hellwith.com. May I suggest that if you do not listen to this entire video, you may be on a fool's errand. A few days ago, I posted a video about something I believe lies at the very heart of America's problems. It wasn't about the Corporation of 1871. It wasn't about maritime law or the Strawman. It wasn't about the Crown of England, the Vatican, the Social Security number, redemption, or any of the countless theories that fill the internet. It was about something much more fundamental. It was about the ability to have a conversation. We no longer know how to converse. I believe there are a number of reasons why, but that is not the focus of this video. Suffice it to say, if we cannot discipline ourselves to understand another person's actual point before introducing our own, how can we ever hope to restore a constitutional republic? That is why I keep returning to the subject of conversation. Because conversation is not about the destination, it's the bridge. The bridge from confusion to understanding, from understanding to agreement, from agreement to action, and from action to the restoration of rights and freedoms. Now let me ask you a question. What if I told you that you could stop studying almost every theory that you've ever heard of from every guru about what supposedly explains what is wrong with America and still begin restoring freedom? What if you never again had to debate the Corporation of 1871, which is very often misunderstood? Or you didn't have to study the Strawman, maritime law, the Crown of England, the Vatican, redemption, or any of the hundreds of competing theories that consume countless hours, dollars, and cause endless arguments. Now, before someone rushes to the comments section and accuses me of saying those theories are true or false, you've already missed the point. This isn't a conversation about theories. It's a conversation about remedies. I think most Americans know something is deeply wrong, just as most of all countries believe and experience the same thing. Government has grown far beyond what our founders envisioned. Freedom seems to diminish year after year. People instinctively know something is broken. But then comes the next question. Now what? For decades, people have offered explanations. Some are fascinating. Some are well researched. Some may even contain elements of truth. But here's my question. What remedy have they produced for the average American? The average American who has a family, a job, bills to pay, responsibility, and he doesn't have 10 years to study competing theories. He doesn't have thousands of dollars to spend following one guru after another. And even if he did, I would still ask that important question. What happens next? Will a judge hear those theories and agree? Will an agency acknowledge them? Will a county board make decisions because of them? In most cases, the answer is no. So perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking which theory is correct, perhaps we should ask, what solution can ordinary Americans understand, agree upon, and actually implement? History teaches us something remarkable. No great movement ever required an entire nation to agree on every historical question. It required enough people to agree on a few fundamental principles. So let me ask you something. Could a majority of citizens in your county agree that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land? Could they agree that every public official voluntarily took an oath to support and defend it? Could they agree that the Constitution exists primarily to limit government power and not to expand it? Could they agree that constitutional limits exist to preserve the rights and freedoms of the people? Could they agree that local officials should exercise the lawful authority entrusted to them to protect those constitutional limits instead of directing government power primarily against the citizens they serve? Those are not complicated questions, and they're not even theories. They are foundational principles. And notice what just happened. We didn't have to settle a single debate about the corporation of 1871. We didn't have to prove the Strawman exists. We didn't have to resolve maritime law or convince everyone about the control and power of the Vatican or the Crown. Because if a community agrees on these basic principles, the conversation changes from speculation to responsibility. Now imagine a sheriff who understands the Constitution, a sheriff who understands the limits of government authority, a sheriff who understands that his oath is not ceremonial, it is a solemn duty. Imagine that sheriff asking every official who exercised government power in his county one simple question: what constitutional authority authorizes this action? Now imagine citizens supporting that effort. Imagine them creating careful, documented records of their understanding, their objections, and their interactions with government, not to promote another theory, but to preserve evidence, encourage accountability, and help local officials distinguish between lawful authority and unsupported presumptions. Now imagine county commissioners who understand these same principles, school board members, legislators, clerks, judges. One county begins asking one simple question: where is the constitutional authority? Not which theory or guru is correct, but what lawful authority authorizes this exercise of power? Do you see how different that conversation becomes? That is a conversation millions of Americans can have based upon first and shared principles. It doesn't require secret knowledge. It doesn't require 10 years of research. It doesn't require everyone to agree on every historical theory or fact. It requires something much more important: the willingness to converse, the willingness to reason, and the willingness to agree upon, I'll say it again, first principles. And that brings me back to the beginning. If you cannot embrace a singular point and discuss it, you cannot possibly be a part of any solution. As long as we are incapable of disciplined conversation, we will continue dividing ourselves into camps, each defending its own explanation while the nation continues drifting away from constitutional limited government. And this problem is exactly what those in government in each political party want. They want us divided as much as possible, for we are much more easier to conquer and subdue when we ourselves are divided. I'm not interested in creating another camp. We have a hope to enter a conversation that restores natural rights and freedom at the local level, and restoring the dignity we deserve as a free people, a people capable of listening, a people capable of reasoning, capable of agreeing on a common cause. Because if we cannot agree on first principles, if we cannot communicate honestly, if we cannot reason together, then no theory, no matter how compelling, will restore our rights and our freedoms. But if enough Americans can unite around a handful of constitutional principles and expect every public official to honor the oath they voluntarily took, then we have something far more powerful than any theory. We have a practical path forward, one conversation, one county, one sheriff, one community at a time. Not with everyone agreeing about everything, but with enough people agreeing about the things that matter most. And I believe that conversation can restore America. In the coming weeks and months, there will be some phenomenal developments that will only advance our common goal. So stay tuned. And as always, may truth reign supreme.